Hey, welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Commerce Corner, the podcast by Lula Commerce. In season 2 here, we're talking to retail leaders about their technology roadmaps and how they're approaching digital transformations like online ordering, loyalty programs, AI projects, things of that nature. We have a really great conversation lined up for you today with Abigail Cerra. Abigail is the Director of Marketing for Loyalty and Communications at Chestnut Market, a 80-store retailer in the tri-state region. Welcome to the podcast, Abigail. We're happy to have you today.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Of course. And a warm welcome to the co-host of today's podcast, Adit Gupta, co-founder and CEO of Lula Commerce. Welcome, Adit. I will give the mic to you, sir, to kick us off with questions.
Hello. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm so thrilled about this conversation. Whenever we are driving from Philadelphia to New Haven or Philadelphia to Boston, we always stop by Chestnut Market. And my first reaction is always, this is so clean. I love the experience in the store, which is not something you can say about a lot of retail stores on that highway. But it's an honor to have you here, Abigail. I know you joined the Chestnut family in the last few years, but I'd love to double click on what sparked your interest in convenience in retail and what brought you here.
Yeah, so January is 11 years for me in the industry. I started as a part-time cashier, and what led me to take that part-time job, I was working a full-time job in an office. I really missed working with people because I had spent my entire life before that in hospitality, serving, working at Sonic, but just always with people. And I was so bored working an office job. And so I was looking for some extra money. The gas station closest to my apartment served beer and growlers, which is like, it was a trend for a little bit in convenience stores. And then it ended up not being sustainable. So I don't know who's still doing it, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I applied to that job. And within 4 months, I actually left my full-time job in the office to start full-time at the gas station in management. And over the years, I was with that company for 5 years in Arkansas, and I was promoted from overnight cashier to store manager to price book in the corporate office. I did some district management work for them, auditing, category manager, marketing. And then that's where I started learning about loyalty in our space. And it really just, my passion for it grew from there, realizing how many opportunities and how much there really is involved in running a gas station. And that led me to building loyalty programs for, this is the 4th chain now, but 5th loyalty program that I've built.
That's incredible. Where most retailers are building their first or maybe second, you have now done this over and over and over again. I want to double click on something that I've always been curious about. With your sort of very long career in retail, what insider experience or which specific role do you feel like was the most helpful for you to learn how to build a really good loyalty experience?
I don't know that there's one role that really unlocked the secrets. I think that the advantage I have is I've worked in so many different roles and I understand how every department impacts the overall experience. Being in that first company I worked for was very small, and so I wore many hats, and I did a lot of work with IT, understanding how the IT infrastructure impacts the experience, pricing and how promotions are set up and how those promotions in our price book are set up impacts the promotions that we run with loyalty. And just those are just 2 small examples of things that have really given me an advantage of, like, I don't have to learn that. I didn't have to learn those. Even my first time building a program, they were things I was able to easily think of as I built it out.
Yeah, that getting a sense of both how the customer experience is affected across the journey. Now I can totally see how that sort of propagates into their digital experience. For folks that may be curious about what is loyalty, what is the whole point of loyalty, how would you distill it down in a few simple words? Why, if I'm a retailer today, I never thought about loyalty. Why should I be thinking about loyalty today?
Yeah, so to me, loyalty, it's not, I've said this 1,000 times, it's not the technology that we use. It's the emotion that our customers feel when they interact with our brand. However, our technology enables us to build on those relationships. So at the end of the day, technology really boils down to the best customer service possible, the best experiences, how we can change Really, it sounds dramatic, but how we can change the lives of our customers every single day. And then we get to use really awesome technology to help enable some of those relationships.
And which is helpful, right? You when you have built loyalty experiences 4 or 5 times, I'm sure what you're thinking about is like interconnectivity with everything at your brand. And so that kind of leads me to my next question of an interconnected future in tech. As you think about your tech roadmap for the next 3 or 5 years or longer, how do you think about that? Like, what are the grounding principles of building a really, really good tech roadmap? And I'm curious what insight you might have there.
Yeah, well, I think the best thing is when you can start from scratch. And just like here at Chestnut, we had no technology, customer experience technology platforms when I joined the team. And so knowing where we want to go in 5, 10 years and being able to build backwards from that from absolute scratch is the easiest thing to do. And I say that because when you know where you want to go, there's a lot you can do today to set you up for success on that. Like, for example, if you are building a loyalty program and you have cards today, and those cards allow you to have customers that are not fully enrolled, and so you don't have all of their information, you don't have all of you don't have true first party data. You have to go back and get enrollment for all of those unenrolled card members. However, since we were able to build a program from scratch, we knew we wanted fully enrolled customers from the start because we knew in 3, 5, 10 years we would want to be using their data. We don't have to go back and figure out a way to convince our customers to fully enroll later on. Just one small example, but I think there's a lot that you can do. I always say, start with where you want to be in 10 years, work your way backwards. It's really expensive to invest in a lot of this technology. So of course you can't do it all right away, but what are like some of the small wins, and really prioritize where your customers are at and what's important to your customers, and not just what you want to do. So I think there's a lot of technology that I would love to implement tomorrow. And I would love, playing with and seeing how it can impact our customer experiences, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be what the customers are looking for right away. So that's been how we've shaped our roadmap so far, and how I've shaped them in the past as well.
And as you now think about consumer habit is changing, the cents per dollar profitability is changing, the market is essentially changing. Have your roadmaps shifted based on essentially the customer need and the market need changing?
I'd say yes, and they have to. I think, regardless where you are in your journey, you have to have a flexible roadmap to a point. For example, coming out of COVID, or going into COVID, even ordering ahead and delivery, if you weren't in there, like that was the perfect opportunity to jump in. Coming out of it, it's like that's why we've looked at order and delivery and prioritized it ahead of some other things that we were doing, because in our market, there's not a ton of C-store retailers on. So it's like, okay, if we take the time to get on board with that now, even though our idea initially was for it to be roadmapped a little later on, we're going to gain that market share. And so I think it's different all throughout the country where consumers are at. That's one thing that I learned coming to Chestnut Market. I grew up in the South. I had always operated in the South, Southeast. Customers are completely different in the North. I've never seen people drink so much coffee in my life. So I think like everyone really is at a different journey depending on like what region they are in the country. And then of course, like things are going to happen and shift, and new technology is going to be introduced that may make us reprioritize throughout that journey.
Yeah, it's I fully agree. One of the other things that I'm always impressed in our conversations, I feel like you're very data centric. I don't know if you remember, we had a deep conversation about like customer segmentation and all these things. And I walked away from that conversation incredibly impressed with how you're thinking about like truly like personalization, making sure customers get a personalized experience based on like what they want, which is rare. A lot of folks aren't thinking about it that way. Um, you know, as you think about the future of tech in this industry, what are you skeptical of? What's something that you're like, it's big now, but it's not going to be around in 10 years?
Oh man. I don't want to. I don't know that this is the right answer because I want to say AI. And the reason I say AI, it's not that I don't think it'll be around in 10 years. I think it'll be more than we can even imagine in 10 years. It's that I think AI is being slapped on everything right now. And it's such a buzzword, and the things that we're using it for today, I mean, we're all so new at it. I'm just curious to see how it's going to evolve. And then, but I think a second answer, one that I feel a little bit more confident won't be around in 10 years, is more like a digital wallet adding to different cards, thinking kind of like Starbucks, where you're adding money to your account and it's living on that account. I hope that goes away in 10 years. I hope we're seeing less of that.
Why, besides me finding out I had $9 on an app that I didn't know for the last 4 years, just the reason why it should go away. Why do you think it shouldn't exist?
Same. I if I open my Starbucks account, I had like $18 in there, and I'm like, I had no idea, which is a nice little surprise. Like, to me, that's a girl math. That's a free drink. But I just don't think it's a great customer experience. I think, like, obviously it's beneficial to Starbucks because they've got money on the books they can earn interest on, but that's Starbucks interest. That's not in the customer's best interest. So I just don't love the concept. They're not the only people doing it, but they get a lot of slack for it. So I'm going to call them out. But I would like to see less like card and wallet and like really relying on Apple Pay. And it shocks me to still see any kind of card and wallet, honestly, when I'm opening an app. So.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about over the last little bit of time as you've built the tech roadmap for Chestnut Market. You've pioneered sort of the first version of a really good version of loyalty. Now you're adding delivery and pickup and curbside and all of that stuff. But I know we've also talking about retail media. And I'd love to hear about your thoughts on how retailers should be thinking about retail media. As much as there's now better access to what that project is and what do you need to do, I feel most retailers still don't know exactly why they need retail media. So I'd love to hear about your perspective.
Yeah, the money is out there. I think we've seen upwards of, I mean, there's billions of dollars available out there, and it's going to somebody. So if it's not coming to you, it's going to your competitor. If you look at, I mean, the big five chains are getting the bulk of that money, but that doesn't mean they're getting all of it. And so there is money available. Even if you don't look at the shopper marketing dollars that mostly the big chains have access to, even if we're looking at our like more local regional connections that we have, a lot of programs are shifting from traditional rebate programs to digitally activated programs. And so not just that, it's easier to turn around. It's easier to activate a promotion. So for example, it snowed 30 something inches last weekend here. We were able to very quickly turn on a free coffee for all members that came in, so we had, people out plowing snow, essential workers, they still had to go to work. So we gave them a free coffee. It's not easy to turn those on and activate and get the word out when you're using physical signage. Of course, like, I'm not saying that physical signage doesn't play an important role in our marketing plan, but having digital landscapes is important for so many factors, not just the funding. I think that even to myself, it's a very, it's overwhelming. There's so many pieces of retail media, and you think you have to do it all to do something, but you don't. I think you can start with anything at all, and anything is better than nothing.
I agree, and I think that thinking about it from like now, next, later, if I as a retailer am thinking about adding retail media in a world where everyone is really thinking about that, like, what are the baby steps? What's now versus what's next? Like, what are some key things to add now to be able to capture first party data, et cetera, and then what's next?
I guess it depends what's most important to you as a retailer. I've seen the most significant ROI from the promotions and the campaigns that we've ran on our dispenser screens. So if you're looking for like the quickest return on investment, the quickest behavior change with your customers, and then that's also an area in the dispenser marketing that large brands are used to paying through campaigns like GSTV, for example. They're already used to funding that. They already know that it works. So I think it's a little easier to get buy-in from that. Screens inside your store, though, are a much more cost-effective method to turn on, and that's something that multiple channels in retail have been using for maybe a decade now, maybe even a little longer. So I always like to look at not just what our industry is doing, but what retail in general is doing. Our customers shop everywhere. So if something's working in another industry, I have no problem being the first to adopt it in our industry because our customers are retail shoppers everywhere. Hope that answered that question.
Oh, it totally does, and I think like it's tactical, right? Because somewhere, some company, some team members getting this project to turn on a retail media experience, and they may be clueless. So, learning about what are the baby steps of getting there is certainly important. You talked about something interesting that perked my ears, Abigail, in terms of like here's something that is happening in this other industry. Here's something that you're going to adopt. Inconvenience. I don't think a lot of people think about it that way. What's one thing that you're sort of kind of excited about of what's happening in another industry that maybe could work here in convenience?
I think the biggest miss we have in convenience is that the promotions we're running are not dynamic. I think that there's some retailers starting to get there. We are not there yet at Chestnut Market. I would love to get there, but when you're shopping on Amazon and I have an offer that my best friend doesn't have, because we have different shopping behaviors, or it suggests different things for me. I think we need more of that in convenience. That's where I really want to get to in our loyalty program is like, if somebody's going to buy two 20-ounce Cokes from us, why am I giving them a discount to do that? I need to give them a discount to buy a third 20-ounce Coke, or maybe that customer's incentivized for like Coke's, a 20-ounce Coke affinity item. I really want to see that more in our space that has already been successful in other retail channels.
Yeah, that's a great insight, and I think that there's some really interesting conversion experiences here in gas stations with now dynamic TVs, et cetera, and displays rather. There's an opportunity to sort of sell to customers that wouldn't necessarily come inside the store. So I am curious to see where that goes, maybe in the next 12 to 24 months. That's certainly something we're thinking about also from a digital commerce engagement perspective. I think. A lot of people need gas, so perfect opportunity to help them buy some personalized item that they wouldn't necessarily. Your insight's been so valuable, Abigail. I wanted to leave the best for last and pass it to Matt
Right.
for a round of questions.
Sounds great. The lightning round, Abigail, is a fun little segment here. This just feel free to keep these answers relatively brief if you want, or elaborate further if you feel necessary. But we've got a couple questions for you, and one actually is related to the what you were just talking about with kind of looking outside the industry. And I'm curious, as you kind of look in terms of loyalty at other companies outside the C-store industry that are doing loyalty really well. What would you say is kind of the best loyalty program that you've seen outside of the convenience store space?
Every time I have this question, my answer is always Ulta. They have like a 95+% loyalty penetration rate. They do the absolute best in any industry, if you ask me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's a great example. Is there a vendor that you've worked with that's really exceeded your expectations?
I think I'm very pick this is supposed to be a lightning round, and here I'm giving long answers.
No, it's okay.
I'm very particular about who I work with. It's not just about the software that companies deliver or the service they deliver, because everyone kind of delivers the best. And so I've really pride myself on working with some of the best vendor partners in the space. But one that has I've worked with for many years now, has really continued to exceed my expectations. It's not a technology partner. It's our actual print signage partner, Universal Screen Graphics, has just like continued to exceed our expectations year after year. And such a great partner.
Shout out
That's
to
awesome.
Universal.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Sorry, you might see I'm actively trying to avoid this like glare from the sun coming into my window right now. Next question for you. Is there a technology that you're most excited about here for 2026? And we've talked a lot about kind of your roadmap and things that you're actively working on. What technology would you say you're most excited about for this year?
Yeah, I was not paid to say this, but order ahead of delivery really is what I'm most excited about. There's so much opportunity in this market, and I really think that we're going to just immediately blow it away with it. I can't wait to see what our team does once we go live.
Super
Absolutely.
pumped for it.
Yeah, we look forward to supporting you all with that. Is there a KPI that you watch every single day? You're just like refreshing this dashboard or this spreadsheet, and you're always kind of
Yeah.
looking for updates?
Yeah, so we look at our total member count every single day. We share that with our teams, but the one I'm most interested in every day is our active member count. So members that have shopped in the last 60 days, but unless they were new within like the last 30 days. We're really proud to say that we have a 45% active member count, which is far exceeding the industry standard for that, and so we're really excited. Keep our eyes on that one.
That's amazing. We've got one more lightning round question for you. If you were to fill in the blank here, what would it be? The future of convenience retail is blank.
Connection.
That's a good one. Do you want to
I think
elaborate
that's
further or no?
Okay, yeah. Well,
You don't have to. You don't have
I
to.
think connection. I think the connection of our partners, connection of technology, connection with our customers, connection with our store teams, and so it can really be. It's just it can be elaborated to so many different things. So
Absolutely. Sorry, Adit. I think
I
you were
know.
saying something.
No, yeah, that I fully agree. Interestingly, what I've been hearing more and more is that even connection of things from a tech standpoint, connecting to each other, I think that that's the biggest change that I've seen in this industry in the last 10 years. Nowadays, most tech pieces are not siloed anymore. So it's a big win for the industry overall. I wanted to also congratulate you, Abigail. I know you're a founding board member of C-Store Women, which is incredible. And I wanted to get a sense of, for women working in the convenience space that are listening here or watching this podcast, any advice you might have on how to break through in leadership, how to continue to have like a phenomenal impact on the industry and just retail overall.
yeah, so being a founding board member of C-Store Women is very important to me. When I was just starting out, so I mean, it's been 11 years. So I was, I think, 22 when I was first starting in the space, and maybe 23, 24 when I started working on the corporate side in a very small town, Arkansas, rural area type thing. And so it was really tough for me to I guess like work with vendor partners and actually have them take me seriously as a young female. And everything that I learned along the way, I want to share, like, how can we bring other females up with us, I guess. Being a part of C-Store Women has opened my eyes to so many females that have done the same thing, though. So one, I love it because it's such an amazing networking opportunity. We're meeting so many allies in the space, male allies that are helping bring women along as well. But the biggest thing with C-Store Women is that women are getting to management positions, but they're not getting to those director or C-suite level roles. And it's because there is a perception that women don't have the financial acumen to hold those roles. And so it's not that women don't have the financial acumen, it's that they have the perception that they don't. And so our biggest objective is like, how do we change that perception? And then how do we get more women into those roles? We're still answering that question, but it's been a really great 3 years and looking forward to what we accomplish this year with that.
I love that. I think that's a very keen and specific observation that I think is also very actionable for folks kind of listening in here. And I'm always blown away for our conversations. I feel like you have all of your stats and KPIs, you just know them, which to me is just, I could talk about that all the time. So thank you for sharing some of those today at Commerce Corner. It was such a pleasure to have you today.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone. And if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do that. We've got new episodes coming every few weeks, so give us a subscribe and you won't have to miss that. Abigail, thank you so much for being here today, and we look forward to seeing everyone on the next one. Thanks again.